and welcome to the Veterinary Business Podcast, your ultimate resource for developing a successful veterinary practice and career. I'm Ryan Davies, digital marketing advisor with Equa Marketing, and one of the co-hosts of the Veterinary Business Podcast show. On this podcast, we'll bring you insights and expertise from industry-leading doctors, experts, and thought leaders. We cover a wide range of topics, including practice management, marketing strategies, leadership development, HR best practices, AI, law, and so much more. Whether you're a practicing veterinarian, practice owner, practice manager, student studying to be a veterinarian, or anywhere in this walk, this podcast is tailored to help you navigate the unique challenges and opportunities in the business of veterinary medicine. Every listener of this podcast is welcome to visit www.veterinarybusinessinstitute.com for additional resources and tools to support your growth. And remember, you can subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcast: iTunes, YouTube Music, Spotify, and all the other popular podcast platforms. Let's jump in today. I'm very excited to chat with Dr. Marlene Siegel, a veterinarian and owner of Pasco Veterinary Medical Center, who is also passionate about and an advocate for alternative treatment options for pets, which is perfect for our topic today on how integrative therapies can boost your practice and heal your patients. Dr. Siegel, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you, Ryan. I am so excited to share all the topics that we talked about.
I know. I mean, we had a very good introduction here before we started recording, and I got very excited, and already I'm starting to say, here's my life story and how it all applies. So I can't wait to learn from you as well today on everything. But I think let's really start with what is an truly integrative practice. What does that look like? And what are kind of the steps that you really need to sort of embrace that philosophy and that practice mindset?
Thank you. I'd love to define that. So as veterinarians, and this applies to the human side as well, we were taught what I'll call either Western medicine or allopathic medicine. And that is where we're taught to name it, blame it, and then come up with a pharmaceutical to treat it. But in the integrative world, we're incorporating these ancient sciences and modern technologies to actually look at the biology of the body, understand how the body works, and treat the entire body. In fact, when we talk about holistic medicine, many people think homeopathy, but it's so much more than that. We're in holistic medicine, you're talking about the whole. It's the entire organism. It's not body parts that we take apart. It's not organ systems that we break apart. It is the whole, and how does it work? And to truly understand that, you need to understand the biology of the body, which is what I call bioregulatory medicine. And that's what I practice. So integrative medicine means that you take the best of both worlds. You have a wider toolkit. You have more opportunity to treat complex diseases, which we've never seen such complex diseases as we are seeing today. The toolkit that we were taught in veterinary school is just not sufficient. So again, integrative medicine means that we're taking the best of all worlds, putting them into a basket that says, let me pick the best tool for that particular situation. And maybe it's a combination of tools. But at the end of the day, you fix the biology by identifying the root cause of the disease and then allowing the body to do what it innately knows how to do, and that is to heal. But we have to stop doing the things that are causing the body to be in the state of dis-ease before we can help it to actually heal.
I love that. And I mean, I'd love to sort of jump in and you very, 30,000 foot overview on the benefits of practicing integrative medicine compared to the Western model, as you mentioned. Maybe get a little more granular on that for us for, again, for our practice owners listening and things like that, what it really means for them, on a full comprehensive scale, I guess, on a holistic scale, even, if you will, from that practice ownership standpoint.
So I've been practicing for 40 years. That's 40. And I am more excited and more passionate today than I was my first 5 years out of practice. As veterinarians, we go into this industry because we want to make a positive difference in the lives of pets. Plain and simple. That's why we do what we do. And yet we're seeing the highest rate of burnout that we've ever seen in the history of veterinary medicine. People are choosing not to even stay in veterinary medicine. And even more sad is the suicide rate in our industry is the highest of any industry. when we look at that, we ask, why would that be? And it's stress, it's fatigue, it's compassion fatigue. And ultimately, it's because so many veterinarians are wanting to do good. They don't have the ability to treat these complex diseases, and these animals are dying under their watch. And the owners are coming back and doing the blaming and shaming. And, when you have to go into an exam room and say, I'm sorry, there's nothing more that can be done, what they're really saying is there's nothing more that I know I can do. But when we start to educate the veterinary population that not only is there more that we can do, but there is a plethora of opportunity out there for us to do good for these patients. And it doesn't mean, Ryan, that we're going to live forever, right? Everybody has an exit strategy. We're all going to leave this planet. But the reality is our animals should be living into their late 20s and early 30s. And there are animals in the Guinness World Book of Record that have been documented to live into their 30s. Oh. Yet in today's modern world, our animals are living 7 years shorter than they did 25 years ago. And a majority of that is because of the level of toxicity and burdens that these animals are enduring, and their organs of elimination just can't keep up with that. So the reason why to go into integrative medicine, even if you're dipping your toe in, if I'm speaking to a veterinarian or a veterinary support staff member that is hearing these words and they're thinking, that's me, I'm exhausted, I'm frustrated, I feel terrible going into work because all I see is death and destruction, this is for you. Because now you actually get to do what we went into this field to do, and that is to help and to heal and to improve the lives of the animals that we so passionately are here to serve and their pet parents.
I love how you broke it down. We were in the first intro about dis-ease, right? Not the way that you made that very clear of your word choice in that. And today's complex world, as you said, of how that exists. And there's so many different things that come into play with that in terms of, again, we were talking before about diet and marketing and, all of these things that happen to sort of say like, hey, what am I supposed to do? But you kind of touched there a little bit about the advantages of integrative medicine and how it can help combat this, as well as, enhance the overall health and well-being of animals. How do these therapies all come together and this mindset come together to be able to be very successful in doing that?
So I'm going to put it together in the framework that I use. And this is literally the framework that I use. I have a 6-step system. Because if you just take a tool, I'll give you an example. I have people come up to me all the time when I'm teaching ozone, and they go, I don't understand. I use ozone and I'm not getting the results that you're getting. Why is that? And again, it's because if you take a tool out of context, but you don't treat the whole body, then you're not going to get the same results because you're not fixing the root cause of the problem. So step number 1, and this is it's so common sense, but we have to stop doing the things that are causing the disease. And there's no shortcut. So step number 1 in the things that we need to stop doing is feeding a species inappropriate diet. Right. So these guys are carnivores. Dogs are scavenger carnivores, and cats are obligate carnivores. Cats have no dietary requirement for carbohydrates. And when we're feeding them a diet that is 40 to 60% sugar, so high in carbohydrates, that little machine is going to try and function because we're all built to survive, but we're never going to thrive because that's not the fuel source that they were designed to function on. So we're literally creating more of the problem, feeding processed foods that are full of hormones and chemicals and pesticides and genetically modified, which are all causing inflammation. And then these diets that are kibble, that are dehydrated, these animals need 70% of that water should be coming from their diet. It's how they were designed to function. So food is number 1. We need to feed a species appropriate diet that is balanced. And that means the proper amount of meat, fat, bone, and organ meat. And then number 2 is water. They need to have a healthy source of water. Water is one of the most interesting topics because people, when we ask every client what they're feeding and using for water and all that, the environment and all, they go, oh, well, we're feeding either tap water, which is the water right out of the sink, which is 85,000 toxins in tap water, including glyphosate and heavy metals. Or they think they can get it from the refrigerator filter because it's filtered. No, guys, that is not hacking it. So neither one of those sources are sufficient. Water that we need to have in our body needs to be structured. And Ryan, we could have another whole topic on structured water, but suffice it to say that the water that is in our bodies is structured. If you are drinking water or giving water to your pets that is not structured, then the body has to use metabolic energy to restructure that water. It's actually a different molecular composition. It's a gel phase, not a liquidy phase. And all that energy is expended in order to get that water into the gel phase so that it can actually go through the aquaporin into the cell and hydrate the cell. So a majority of us and our pets are going around dehydrated, clinically dehydrated, cellularly dehydrated. So those are the two biggest areas. And then we have the environment. What is your air quality? Do you have mold? Do you have a lot of petroleum products being burned? What is the things touching the pet's skin and yours? So what are you cleaning your floors with? Because your pets are all over the floor. What are you doing your laundry in? Because the pets are laying either on you, which you're wearing clothes, or they're in your bed. So they literally are touching the products that we're washing all the time, just as we are. And then we have to look at electromagnetic pollution, so EMF. I think a lot of people are aware of the fact that 5G is not our friend. So these artificial man-made frequencies are extremely disruptive to the body. And it's not that we just fall over and die because these frequencies are there, but it's causing cellular damage inside of our bodies. And I had a personal experience because I'm super, super conscious of it. On my house, I use solar power. And my electric company said, oh, we're going to have to put a smart meter in because we can't read your meter. And I'd been using solar power and reading my own meter for them for years. So we finally came down to, if I didn't put a smart meter on, they were going to remove my solar program. Well, I didn't want that to happen. So I agreed to have a certain date that they were going to install my smart meter. They jumped my fence 2 weeks early and put in a smart meter without my knowledge and my consent. The only reason I realized it happened was I immediately started feeling terrible. I was monitoring my deep sleep because of a study that I was in, actually wearing this pendant. I was doing a study for this company. And so I was watching my heart rate variability, my deep sleep parameters, and they went to horribleness, like almost no deep sleep. I was having heart arrhythmias. And when I called the electric company back and I said, there's something wrong because my meter letters are all abnormal, the lady goes, oh, no, we can read your meter just fine. And it should have occurred to me that one, I'm feeling crappy. Two, she's telling me she's reading my meter. And the reason they had to put the smart meter in was because they couldn't read my meter. And then 2 weeks later, the guy comes out to put the meter in and he goes, I don't understand. You already have a smart meter. And we tracked it back. And it was literally the night that they started doing it. So I already had a Faraday cage built for the meter to help mitigate the damage. Yep. And I put it on that night. My heart arrhythmias went away within 8 hours. But it took me 3 months, Ryan, of active adrenal therapy to get my adrenals back and to start getting my deep sleep back. So if you can imagine what our poor pets are going through, because we have smart appliances, we have smart meters, we have all of our computers and our Wi-Fi in the house all the time. A lot of pets their beds are underneath the router. So these are serious complications that we have to look at. And then last but not least are the ants that live in our human brains, which are the automatic negative thoughts. And why that affects our pets so dramatically is because when we have the stinking thinking going on, we are creating neurochemicals that are then sending signals to our cells, or our animals entrained to the emotions and the energies that we're giving off. So they may not know that there's a saber-toothed tiger out there, but all they understand is that mom is in high sympathetic tone and there seems to be some kind of a big danger out there. So I'm going to be on high alert and I'm going to freak out at the first thing that happens. And so they stay in high sympathetic tone. And you can't heal till you go into parasympathetic tone, which is the opposite of your sympathetic. Your sympathetic is your fight, flight, and your parasympathetic is your rest, digest, heal, and detoxify. So they live on a teeter-totter from each other. If we stay in high sympathetic tone and unknowingly are creating that in our pets, then how are they ever going to heal? We can't, they can't. So that's step number one. Stop doing the things that are causing the problem. And then step number two is we have to apply the essential nutrients that the body needs to function. That applies to us and applies to our pets. An essential nutrient is a nutrient that the body cannot manufacture in sufficient quantities on its own. We were designed to get them from our diet. So if our food is nutrient depleted, which we all know it is, farming practices have been non-sustainable for over 100 years, then the food that we're eating is going to be nutrient depleted. Hence, whatever we're eating or we're feeding our pets is going to be nutrient depleted. And it's a major, major problem. So that's part number two, is we make sure that the essential nutrients, vitamins, minerals, fatty acids, and amino acids are provided in the diet. Step number three is we heal the leaky gut. And that looks like replenishing the tight junctions, helping to restore the microbiome of the trillions of organisms that are supposed to be in there, and supporting better digestion. Number four is my big passion. I got a lot of passions, but my big passion is detoxification. And that is the 6 organs of elimination: kidney, colon, lungs, liver, skin. And I used to say lymphatics. Now I say lymphatics and fascia, because we know so much more about the fascia. Number 5 is the mitochondria. We have to make sure the mitochondria is robust. We need gazillions of them, and they need to be functioning well. And I want to mention something. When people get so wound up into their trauma that they can't get out of it, it becomes who they are. They get stuck in a condition called the cell danger response mode. And that's where one of the branches of the vagus nerve puts the body into such a state of disarray that it thinks it's going to die. And so it kind of starts playing possum. You know, when a possum thinks it's going to be killed or it's threatened, it acts like it's dead. Well, when the body is in cell danger response mode, the mitochondria think their planet's going to be blowing up here shortly. And so they go into a bunker and they go, la, 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 la. They're not communicating. They're not producing energy. Everything starts to go south. And that's a real disease that we have seen happen in today's modern world, is people get stuck in this cell danger response mode. Well, when they're stuck there, guess who entrains to that? Their pets. And so that's just one of the big areas that we have to look at when we're dealing with the mitochondria and stresses, and whether or not we're in sympathetic or parasympathetic state. And then number 6, which I don't always teach in public forums, is the emotions. With all dis-ease, there are always trapped emotions associated with them. And just a touch in the woo-woo side, there is never a coincidence or an accident that you, the pet owner, has a particular pet at a particular time in a particular part of your life that has a particular challenge. There is always a related experience, emotion associated with that. Kind of like working through a puzzle. You know, we're in a game. I think we're in a hologram here in Earth School. And so it's one of the clues that we could use to help us understand, what do we really need to do differently? So that's the model of everything I do, is that 6-step principle. And going back to your original question, what are the benefits of practicing like that? Number 1, job satisfaction. The greatest experience in the entire world as a veterinarian is to heal your patient, which actually we don't actually do the healing. What we do is we set up the conditions for the body to heal. So we kind of take our ego away and go, what if I just set up the conditions for the body to do what it innately knows how to do? And that's essentially what my practice is all about. How do I stop throwing wrenches into the system so that the body can actually go back and heal? And I will tell you, it is the greatest feeling in the world, because we get animals from all over the world. I consult all over the world. And these people are dealing with such chronic conditions: skin disease, osteoarthritis, cancer, you name it, autoimmune diseases. And they're just stuck in this loop. It's like a hamster going around in the wheel. You know, Einstein said insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. We all get that. But he also said you can't solve the problems of today's world with the same mindset that created them. Well, we were sold on fast, cheap, and convenient. And we are paying a dear, dear price with our health and the health of our pets and the health of our planet.
I mean, that was I was going through, I'm going to have to listen to this again and again because there's so much to unpack there from a personal level, from a professional level, from
Yeah.
a pet's level, everything else. And right down to the, you're talking about the, yeah, we cuddle with our pets and all of that. And I'm the beds. And I'm like, well, mine actually sleep in my floor I like to call it. So I'll just admit that there's little piles of laundry that sometimes pile up and that's their favorite place to sleep. So that's really important from that perspective as well. And just so much of it. And my house is now really getting into block therapy for exactly the fascia release and all that kind of stuff, right? That's a
Awesome.
big thing for us. So yeah, I mean, there was so much there that it was just incredible to go through. When we're talking about a veterinary practice, and again, listening to that, I don't know how you couldn't be like, okay, yep, I need to start putting some of this into play. I need to incorporate these integrative therapies into my practice. What are the steps that someone should take to make that happen? And is this like you said, I love that idea of you don't need to go 2 feet in. You mentioned before, you can dip a toe in the water and get to that level. So what kind of steps and what does that ramp up look like for you?
So number one is education. Like if you don't know, you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to start opening up our consciousness. The other thing we have to shift is the BS. It's our belief system. I know where everybody else went with that, but it's really our belief systems. And our belief systems are simply the thought we keep repeating. Where did we get our belief systems? It was from growing up. We watched our family members, our teachers, our social networks. They were what influenced us to have the belief systems that we have today. Now is our opportunity to look at that belief system and go, is that belief system serving me? Does it make sense? Because don't get started on critical thinking skills, which have been taught out of our children and out of a lot of adults. Like they just follow the piper without ever stopping and going, does that make any sense? So that's a really big area for me, is helping people to start using their common sense and looking at nature. Nature has every solution we need. We just need to look at the model and quit trying to make something better than what nature did, because they created sustainable and successful. We haven't done such a good job. We have the highest cancer rates, the most degenerative diseases that we've ever seen in the world. We're the sickest nation. I think we're in the top 5 sickest nations because of our lifestyle. So step number one is we really need to start stepping back and going, what am I doing? What are my choices? And what can I do differently? And the best way to do that is through education. It may be a different belief system that you have to start taking on, but if something that you're doing isn't working, then by Jove, let's do something different. And I think, and I'm not bragging, but I really think I have the only comprehensive program out there that teaches veterinarian support staff and pet parents, what does it look like to have an integrative lifestyle? We're never going to make all the bad things go away. It's really about balance. Just like I said, there is no disease, there is dis-ease. Well, dis-ease, when you break it up, means that there's not balance. Yeah. Same thing in our lifestyle. We have to find balance. You may not get rid of all the toxins, and that's okay if you have something to mitigate it. So through education, which is step number one, I would love people to take the Transforming Vet Medicine course or the Empowered Pet Parent course. And then number two is we have to have a community of support, right? Because if you're the lone warrior out there and you're the only one doing it, it not only gets lonely, it gets a little uncomfortable. Yeah. And then you don't have that support system. But I'm creating community with veterinarians, community with pet parents, so that we all start speaking a more similar language and we can support each other. So when I go out with my friends, we're all going to the chef. What did you cook my food in? What are the oils that you're using? No, I can't eat gluten, because we're like-minded. And so we're a team going in there and getting the restaurant industry to change. But when you're the only one at the table asking for something different, a lot of people would feel embarrassed. They would cave in. Not me. I'm looking around going, do you realize what toxins you're eating right now? Yeah, tell me about it tomorrow and how you feel. And then I eat my healthy food and they laugh and they go, oh yeah, Dr. Siegel with her special meals that she has to have. And yet they're all having health challenges and I'm not. Yeah. So as I approach 70, right buttoned up to 70, I have no health challenges, and I have the most vibrant, most enjoyable, most rewarding life that I could ever have imagined. And it's because I have the right mindset and I'm out learning all the time and I'm always educating myself and others and being an inspiration and inspiring myself. And I think it's really an important message that not only do we have to get educated and have a support system, but then you have to walk your talk, right? You can't look unhealthy and eat bad foods and drink tap water and take a lot of medication and expect your pet parent to go, oh yeah, you're modeling a good lifestyle. I wouldn't respect that person, right? Because they're not walking the talk. So that would be my take home message is start somewhere, because if you have analysis paralysis, you're not going to do anything. So in my programs, I literally have pet parents and or veterinarians start making a list. Column A, all the things you should be doing, but you're not yet. Column B, all the things you shouldn't be doing and you still are because you haven't learned better. And then we pick one thing from column A to start doing, one thing from column B to stop doing. And we slowly, holding your hand through the whole process, help you to make those transitions. And in many cases, it's not more expensive. It's simply making a different choice.
Right.
Laundry soap, that's a great example. You could use the toxic stuff that's sold in the grocery store every day, which is full of xenoestrogens. These are hormone mimicking compounds that are creating so much of the hormone diseases that we see, the estrogen-based cancers. Or you can buy something that's clean and green and it isn't hurting the environment, let alone not hurting you and your family members,
right?
2- and 4-legged. So it's that kind of stuff. It's just education and it's learning. So my website is covered in information. We have an online store that helps people to seek. Now, you don't have to buy my products, but at least compare what we have and then find something equal to or better.
Yeah, amazing. So is this something, again, you said you've been practicing for 40 years. Is this, again, you came out of vet school. I can't imagine that you jumped 2 feet into this, that it was something that you kind of, again, you had to ramp up into, you had to learn more about. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
No.
But is it something that you've used complementary? And then also with that, I'd love from the patient side, from the client side, from the pet parent side, have you noticed as you integrated more and more and were able to offer more and more that you saw an increase in satisfaction and retention from that point as well?
1,000% to answer your last question.
Okay.
Going back to the beginning, I was just as allopathic as everybody else, though I was very intuitive and I had a lot of out of the box thinking. But the first thing that made me do some changes is my daughters were, at the time, they were like 6 and 8 years old. And I started seeing a lot of my clients whose daughters were in their 20s getting breast cancer. So that was one of the first things I started asking questions and doing some investigation. Then I learned about xenoestrogens and hormones in a lot of the foods. So that was the very first thing I changed in my household. Was I went to all green, organic, clean products that touched our skin. Shampoos, conditioners, toothpaste, makeup, everything became a healthy product. So I was very conscientious about that. And then the second incident that happened was a riding accident with my youngest daughter and one of my show horses. The horse saved my daughter's life. And it was in my quest to fix the horse that veterinarians said to me, I'm sorry, Dr. Siegel, we can't tell you exactly what is wrong with her, but we can tell you that she'll never be shown again. She'll never be safely ridden to show again. And your 2 choices are put her out to a pasture or put her down. And it was that last kick in the hiney that made me say, I am not willing to accept that answer. Oh, the amount of passion and emotion that came out of me in that instant was unbelievable. So somewhere in a past life, somebody must have told me no. It really brought out a ton of emotion. And I said, I am going to fix this horse. No matter what you think, I am going to find answers. And that's really where my journey started. And then everything that I learned to do for Lily, the horse, I learned to incorporate into my practice. And there was no models in the veterinary world at that time. There was nothing for me to look at. So I was having to go into the functional medicine world, which was brand new back then as well. So it was kind of like the blind leading the semi-blind. because I'm asking questions and these guys are going, well, we're really not sure. And we sure don't know how to apply it to animals. And my motto became, you just tell me what you do. I'll figure out how to apply it to the animals. And I still do that today. We're getting ready to do cold plunges for animals for cancer. Right. No one's ever done it before. So, I'll get the data. We're going to find out how it works. I'm sure it's going to be fantastic. And we're going to figure out how to make it happen. So, my point is that we have to start somewhere. And there's usually an incident in our lives, either our own personal health challenge or that of someone we love passionately that we want to do something for. For pet parents, it's their pets, right? Because they are no longer pet owners. Those are people who can let the animal die and just get a new one. We don't see pet owners very often anymore. We see pet parents and we see soul pets that are part of people's families. These animals come to deliver so much healing for these families, and they realize that they may not know the term to put to it, but they realize there's something very, very different about the animals of today. And whether it's a bird or a bearded dragon or a dog or a cat or a horse, it doesn't matter. These animals are extremely important to these pet parents. And those are the ones that I want to serve. And not that the other ones aren't good. Those are the 1-star reviews on my website, if you ever go look. So it's okay, because everybody is in their own place and their own journey. I just don't let that define me. So let me say that again for those veterinarians who are getting attacked on social media or they get those 1-star reviews. They can be the perfect contrast for us to talk about. And it's okay to say, you're not a good fit for me, right, or I'm not a good fit for you. It doesn't make anybody right or wrong. It just said we're not good to work together, because the pet parent that is going to be a good fit for me is the one that I define as the person who loves their pet and will do as much as they can, including lifestyle changes to the best of their capability. It's not about money. It's about the willingness to make the changes so that animal can go back to thriving. And it doesn't always equate to money. Oftentimes it doesn't. It's simply choices and learning what's a better choice to make.
Right.
So once we are able to get that point across, and veterinarians who are experiencing the fatigue and the compassion fatigue, and they're letting other people define who they are, if they can take that step back and go back to that moment when they chose to be a veterinarian, what made you want to do this work? We know it's not the highest paid industry. We know it's long hours. We know there's a lot of heartache involved, but there's also some of the greatest joys that you can ever imagine in any industry. And we all go into it for the right reasons. Yeah. So now we just have to go back and find what were my happy balls, right? The marbles in Peter Pan. What was my happy place when I did this? And once we go back to finding the happy place and we can find balance, we can go back to enjoying our practices. And it's not about the rat race. I very rarely do vaccinations. I very rarely have to deal with fleas and ticks, a little bit, but most of my practice are the really challenging cases, the chronic degenerative diseases. But because my toolkit is so advanced and it's so robust, and I understand biology so much more than I did when I was in school, I now can face those challenges. And I made a promise to my clients, my own personal promise, that I would never utter the words, "There's nothing more that I can do." And I was only tempted to say it one time. And I choked back the words and I went, nope, take a deep breath and then step up to the plate. And I did. And it was really an amazing experience. So when I tell you that there really is life beyond the misery, and what we came into this industry for is still there, and we can still do so much good. And the people that appreciate us, that's awesome. And the ones that don't, it's okay. They're just not awakened enough yet. They're not ready for you. And that's okay. You're not here for everybody. Right. You're here for the ones that are looking for you to help their pets live the longest, healthiest, most thriving life possible.
And before we go into those great cases, those examples of joy and everything else, because I really want to share those, And while you did mention finances, it's not all about it. I know when we're talking to practice owners, this is a big part for them. It's like,
Yeah.
what is the cost consideration for implementing and maintaining these therapies and learning these therapies? And then also, like from your personal experience, obviously you can talk to it really well. What happened to the financial performance of the practice as you ramped up and continued this path to this integrative practice?
It was the highest spike I've ever seen in my practice career, was because not only are these cases unique, there's no one competing with me.
Right.
The big box companies can't pivot quick enough to understand bioregulatory medicine. People can't shop that on the internet. Chewy's and these other pharmacy companies, they're doing their thing, but they don't have my toolkit. So I became a very unique niche. And because of what I do, and this doesn't mean that other veterinarians want to do this necessarily, but now I have speaking engagements. I have companies that are asking me to do trials and clinical studies with them. And all of these are sources of revenue. But of course, the bottom line at the practice markedly went up with much more satisfaction, because one of my cases may take a 2 or 3 hour workup. So I'm not seeing cases every 15 minutes. But because my workups are so much more involved and the therapies are so much more involved, that the dollar value for these cases ends up being higher than the $20 and $30 or $50 ticket on having to see a whole bunch of people. So I would rather see a smaller number of people have a greater revenue and do a better job. That's the end of the day. That's what you want to do, is help more and be happy about it and have some quality of life. It's for everybody. So that's huge.
Yeah.
There was another part of question you asked me. So the revenue was there.
The implementation costs, like how do you, because that's a big, again, is there a major startup change to this? Is this something that you need to, again, really be cognizant of, or again, with your suggestion of ramping up and doing that A/B system of trying to kind of figure out what you're changing, do you notice that it's again, that the financial benefits are going to far outweigh the investment that it takes?
Yeah. Most of the technologies that I use have a low learning curve. There's some you have to learn not only how to use the technology, but how to integrate it into a system.
Right.
So
Yep.
I think that's a really big piece. But if somebody's training with me, they learn that system and I help them with their cases. But more important than that is a lot of practices may not have enough space to take some of the bigger items. There's many low-hanging fruit. So not a lot takes, I think the thing that takes the most space would be like a hyperbaric chamber, might take a little bit more room. And so that might be a little struggling for some practices. Maybe it is a salt room. I have a salt room. And so that would have some specialty things that go along with it. But most everything else doesn't have that big of a ticket value. The learning curves are extremely doable. And most importantly, you're going to ROI on each one of those technologies as long as they don't become a dust collector, which if you're working with me, you are not going to have any dust collectors. You're going to use these equipments every day in your practice, and they're going to ROI on those equipments in most cases under 30 days.
Wow.
Or at least 3 months. And if you're not doing that, you're not using it. And it's that simple. But then you have to train the staff on the language that they have to use. Remember the BS that we had in the beginning, the belief systems? Everybody has to make a paradigm shift. And here's your deal breaker. If you think you can still use prescription diets and processed kibble and canned foods and use these tools and have the same results I'm getting, not going to work. So you're just not ready to make the shift. You're going to improve your cases, but you're not going to get the same outcomes. Because if you're trying to clean up a river from pollution and you're going out there every weekend and working with teams and just doing a great job, but nobody told the people upstream to stop pouring in the pollution, then you're never really going to get that far ahead. You're going to make a dent, but you're not going to make a big difference. So when people take my Transforming Vet Medicine course, or the pet parents, if they can't get past diet, which is first conversation, if they can't get past that, then they're just not ready. And that's okay. but just don't expect major changes in the outcomes of your patient, and don't expect major changes in your job satisfaction, because you're not going to see it as well.
Amazing. And, as we're closing off here again, I want to end on that high note before there'll be one more close after this, but you mentioned before some of those specific cases, those things that are bringing you true joy in terms of where integrative therapies really made a significant difference. So I'd love for you to share, anything you've got in mind with that.
Absolutely. So I'll start with cancer cases. Almost all the cases that get referred to me are the people have been told there's nothing more that can be done. I mean, just that simple. So I have treated successfully splenic lymphoma. And when you see these animals come in, they are the sickest of the sickest. I have successfully treated hepatic shunts without using traditional therapies, skin diseases, osteoarthritis, well, let me go back to the cancer, because osteosarcoma, I have successfully treated that, splenic lymphoma, systemic lymphoma, mast cell tumors, variety of different sarcomas, fibrosarcomas. The list goes on and on. To me, I don't even worry about the name of the tumor anymore. I'm treating the biology and letting the body help me to do its job. Osteoarthritis cases, we have animals that come in that can't walk, that leave our practice after therapies, and sometimes it's ongoing therapies, that have their quality of life back. I have animals that are paralyzed, degenerative disc disease cases, that are paralyzed sometimes up to 3 to 6 months before they come to me. They either didn't have surgery because owners couldn't afford it, or the surgeries weren't successful, and we're able to get these animals walking again without the use of steroids and without the use of surgery. Cruciates. I had a dog, Bama Bear. And I actually went to this person's house to euthanize the dog. We were called there to do a euthanasia. And when I got there, I was asking questions about what was wrong, because this dog was 5 years old. And it turns out that he had double cruciates on his back legs, obviously. And they were told there's nothing that they could do. And I said, no, there's a lot we can do. And so we literally put a muzzle on, picked the dog up, took it back to the office. I did some therapies. The next day, I did double injections into both stifles with prolozone, PRP, platelet-rich plasma, and intra-articular laser therapy and ozone. And I have video of this dog walking upon recovery. And then as we did our physical therapy on him, within 2 weeks, he was walking normally, and he's still around and still has great quality of life. But they did all the things we asked them to do. They changed his diet. They have the structured water. They reduced the amount of pollution to the best of their capabilities. They work on detoxification, and we support his joint health. So that was a great case. A wound case. I've had 2 great wound cases, hundreds of great wound cases, but one was a dog that suffered sunburn in the state of Florida. He got left in the sun without any shade, and his entire back was sloughing. And most of these dogs probably would have died under the severe infection, severe Pseudomonas infection by the time he was brought into me. But using the therapies, ozone, salt room, laser therapy, hyperbaric oxygen, this dog not only continued to eat every day, but totally healed his back. Another dog who the owners had put a bandage on the foot, and they didn't realize it was a constricting bandage. And so 360 degrees, by the time I saw the dog, it was the first 2 days after the swelling, the paw was all swollen out like this. But I didn't get a good history to understand what had happened yet. And it took, I think on the 4th day, I could see the demarcation line. The entire foot sloughed all the skin. I was looking at ligaments, tendons, and just some tissue. It was really, really bad. We were able to reverse that and help this dog to heal. She was 2 years old, and she is fully healed now. We do scar therapy, and she is doing fabulous. So that is a smattering. Bladder cancers, tremendous success with bladder cancers. Let me look what else I had here. Diabetes. So many people think when their animal becomes a diabetic, that's it. They're going to be condemned to insulin injections. Well, not necessarily. There is a lot of hope that if they have anything left in their beta cells, and we can stop doing the damage and reversing the inflammation, it's amazing how much better these animals can get. So I have a lot of diabetic cases that I've been able to reverse. What else did I have down here? The sunburn. Yeah, I think that covers a lot of it.
That is a comprehensive list, and like you said, it's not even now certain things you're just like, it doesn't matter what it is. I'm just treating something, that the
Yeah.
way it should be. You're not so hyper focused on it as you were. So I think that is unbelievable. Dr. Siegel, I think the last piece here of this puzzle, as you mentioned our puzzles before, is you mentioned your courses, you mentioned a lot of the great things you're doing. I know our listeners are going through this going, okay, so what's next for me? How do they get in touch with you? How do they kind of start this path with you personally, and to really create that truly integrative practice?
Thank you. And I really hope we reach a lot of veterinarians and we start making that shift. DR and then my name.com. So drmarlenesiegel.com is my main hub. From there, you can go to our online store. We have affiliate programs for veterinarians, our training programs, and our training programs are very extensive. We have our base course is 34 hours. If you make it through that 34 hours and you can make the paradigm shifts with that, and you're home free. And then we teach fascia. I co-created a course with Deanna Hansen, fascia decompression for your fur family. So if you're doing block therapy with Deanna Hansen, there's a program in there for your pet. So we teach you how to do fascia decompression. And then I teach lymphatic therapy for veterinarians, ozone, of course, hyperbaric oxygen, energy medicine. There's homeopathy, homotoxicology, there's acupuncture. There's so many things to teach, but you got to build the house from the bottom up, right? It's so sexy to do ozone, but if you don't have the foundation, then you're not going to see the results that I'm getting. And every one of us can be doing this. It's a low entry in cost. It's a very low learning curve for most of the technologies. And the return on investment is high, but more so the return on joy is the highest.
Incredible. So you know what? I think that is an amazing place. And of course, show notes. As I mentioned before, veterinarybusinessinstitute.com. I went too fast there. Veterinarybusinessinstitute.com. I just kind of went through it. We're going to have additional resources and things like that. I know you mentioned as like an ebook and things along those lines as well. So we're gonna be able to help with that for people looking for more information. And again, visit the website and get more information, get started down this path. Dr. Siegel, thank you so much for joining us today. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate and enjoyed our conversation, how integrative therapies can boost your practice and heal your patients. I appreciate it very much. Our team appreciates it very much. Our listeners especially appreciate you very, very much. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you.
Blessings. Thank you so much.
I also want to take a moment, thank our listeners. As you know, we appreciate each and every one of you, and we can't do what we do without you. So of course, if you like this episode, love this podcast, please kindly share it with your colleagues and your friends on social media. And please don't forget to leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. It's your reviews and kind words that are going to help other doctors and practice owners find us and bring you incredible guests like Dr. Marlene Siegel today. So until next time, keep striving for excellence, make a positive impact in the lives of your patients and pet parents. And I wish you all an amazing week ahead. Thanks, everybody, and take care.